I used to think family meant unconditional love. I used to believe that the people who raised you would protect you from harm, not be the very source of it. But I guess I was always a little too idealistic. At least, that's what they liked to tell me. That, and how dramatic I was. My name is Rachel. And this story? It starts in the house I once called home, a house full of whispered judgment and polite cruelty, wrapped up in fake smiles and Sunday dinners. From the outside, we looked perfect. Mom was the image of grace, always dressed like she was heading to a garden party. Dad was quiet, distant, but respected. My older brother, Ben, was the golden child. And me? I was the emotional one. The sensitive one. The one who, according to them, always took things too personally. I was 13 the first time my mother rolled her eyes while I cried. She had just criticized my weight in front of some relatives. I had barely touched the dessert she made, and she hissed in my ear, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Oh, stop, Rachel. You always need a scene, don't you?" They laughed. I remember their laughter like it was stitched into my skin. I ran upstairs, humiliated. And instead of anyone checking on me, they just went on eating, talking about someone else's divorce like I didn't exist. That became the pattern. I'd express a feeling. They'd dismiss it. If I cried, I was being manipulative. If I got angry, I was unstable. If I went quiet, I was giving them the silent treatment. There was no winning. There was just surviving. By the time I turned 18, I had mastered the art of keeping everything inside. I'd sit at the dinner table and smile while Ben made passive-aggressive jokes at my expense. Mom would chuckle and sip her wine. Dad would mutter, "Don't be so sensitive, Rachel." But my silence didn't protect me. It only made them bolder. The final straw came at my cousin's engagement party. I had driven 2 hours after work just to be there. I was exhausted, but I showed up with a gift and a smile. As soon as I walked in, I heard Ben's voice. "Well, well, well, if it isn't the family martyr." Everyone laughed. Even my mother. I pretended not to hear it. I sat through dinner, biting my tongue so hard I could taste blood. Then, out of nowhere, Mom brought up my recent breakup. "So Rachel," she said loudly, "are you still crying to that therapist about Josh? Or did she finally tell you to grow up?" Laughter again. Even my aunt covered her mouth to hide her grin. I stood up. My hands were shaking. "You know what? I'm done," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. Ben smirked. "There it is. The drama. We were just waiting for it." I walked out. No screaming. No tears. Just silence. But inside, something cracked. Not in a way that broke me, in a way that freed me. I didn't answer their calls after that. I moved out of state. Changed my number. I went low contact, and then no contact. My therapist, the one they loved to mock, told me something that stuck. Distance isn't dramatic. It's healthy. And for the first time, I believed her. Months passed. I rebuilt. I healed. Slowly. Painfully. I learned how to breathe without their judgment pressing against my chest. I started journaling. I read books about family trauma. I spent hours in therapy unlearning everything they drilled into me. And still, the messages kept coming. "You're overreacting. We didn't mean it like that. You've always been so dramatic." But none of them ever said, "I'm sorry." None of them asked how I was doing. They just missed the version of me who tolerated their cruelty in silence. Then came the Facebook post. Ben's wife shared a family photo from my cousin's wedding, one I hadn't even been invited to. The caption read, "So grateful for our tight-knit, no-drama family." I stared at it for a long time. My hands didn't shake this time. My chest didn't tighten. I just smiled. A slow, cold smile. Because I had an idea. They wanted to label me the dramatic one. Fine. I'd lean into it. But not with tears. Not with yelling. No. I had something better in mind. I opened my therapy billing portal. I downloaded the receipts. Every session. Every hour I spent untangling their damage. And I started drafting an email. Not a rant. Not a plea. Just an invoice. And that was only the beginning. The email started simply. No preamble. No greetings. Just the cold precision of a bill. Subject: reimbursement for emotional damages. Attached were 37 pages of therapy session invoices. Each one marked with a neat header. Cause of session: familial emotional neglect, gaslighting, psychological abuse. I kept it professional. Detached. The same way they always treated me. The message body was short. Dear family. Since you've made it clear that I'm the dramatic one, I thought it was only fair to show you the actual cost of that label. Attached are the therapy bills for the emotional damage caused during my upbringing and adult interactions with you all. No response necessary. Just consider it an itemized receipt for the person you created. Best. Rachel. I hit send and didn't look back. At least, not for the first hour. By the second hour, my inbox lit up like a Christmas tree on fire. First came Ben. Reimbursement for emotional damages. Are you kidding me? You're actually sending therapy bills? That's insane. You seriously need help. Followed by another 5 minutes later. This is why no one wants to deal with you. You always take everything way too far. Then Mom chimed in. Her email was longer, like a passive-aggressive love letter dipped in fake concern. Rachel. This isn't the way to reconnect. I know things were hard sometimes, but families argue. That doesn't mean we were abusive. You always made mountains out of molehills. We love you. You just took things too personally. That phrase again. Like a mosquito bite that never stops itching. Took things too personally. No, Mother. I took them exactly how they were meant. I just finally stopped pretending they didn't hurt. Then came the group email. Because of course they had a family group chat, one I'd been quietly removed from years ago. This one was from my aunt. She hadn't spoken to me in 2 years, but now she suddenly had something to say. Rachel. I don't know what you're trying to achieve with this stunt, but it's incredibly hurtful. We've all gone through things. You're not special. Maybe it's time to let go of the past and grow up. Right. Because growing up, in their world, meant learning how to pretend everything was fine while your insides rotted. But the best response? That came from my father. A man of few words, and fewer emotions. His email simply read. You've made your point. That was it. No denial. No defense. Just 6 words that made my stomach twist, not with regret, but with realization. He knew. He had always known. And he let it happen anyway. For a moment, I almost cried. Not because it hurt, but because I realized how numb I had become to the idea of a parent protecting me. I didn't reply to any of them. I let the silence do the talking. Let them squirm in the discomfort they so often tried to ignore. A few days later, Mom called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Rachel, honey, please call me back. We're worried about you. We want to talk this through. This doesn't have to be such a big deal. It was always that line. This doesn't have to be such a big deal. Translation: stop holding us accountable. Stop making us uncomfortable. But I wasn't their scapegoat anymore. I wasn't their emotional punching bag or the family therapist. So I did what I do best now, I documented it. Every email. Every message. Every voicemail. I started writing. Not just in my journal this time. I began compiling everything into a memoir draft. Therapy had taught me the power of owning your story. And now, I wasn't just owning it. I was preparing to publish it. The title? Dramatic, A Survivor's Guide to the Polite Abuse of Family Expectations. Catchy, right? 1 month after I sent that invoice, my cousin, the same one whose wedding I wasn't invited to, reached out privately. Rachel. I just wanted to say I read your email. And I get it. I do. You're not crazy. I see how they treat you. I've been pretending it doesn't bother me, but it does. That message meant more than every apology I never got. It proved something I had long suspected. I wasn't the only one drowning. I was just the only one who stopped pretending I could breathe. And I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. They called me dramatic. Fine. I'd be dramatic. But I'd be precise. Calculated. And unforgettable. Because in Chapter 3, they'll wish I'd just stayed silent. Silence is a weapon. And I'd sharpened mine over years of being talked over, dismissed, and laughed at. So when the voicemail stopped coming and the emails went quiet, I didn't feel peace. I felt power. Not the aggressive, in-your-face kind. No. This was subtle. Elegant. The kind that seeps into every uncomfortable dinner table conversation they now had about me. I wasn't the dramatic one anymore. I was the unpredictable one. The one who sent therapy bills with itemized emotional trauma. And I still wasn't finished. The memoir draft was growing fast. Every chapter was titled after a phrase they used to tear me down. Chapter 1, You Always Overreact. Chapter 2, We Were Just Joking. Chapter 3, Don't Ruin This for Everyone. Each one followed by a real memory, raw and unfiltered. I used their words. Their own language. I didn't even have to exaggerate. Their cruelty spoke for itself when stripped of its sugar coating. I was going to publish under a pen name. At first. But then something changed. I got a call from a small indie publisher I'd pitched the idea to. They loved the concept. They wanted to meet. And when we talked, they said something that lit a fuse in me. You know, your story isn't just powerful. It's familiar. So many people go through this. But the way you packaged it, invoices, emails, receipts, it's genius. It turns pain into evidence. That's when I realized I wasn't hiding anymore. I was done protecting people who never protected me. I signed the deal. Real name. Full story. Then I did something they never expected. I mailed them each a hardcover copy of the manuscript. Pre-release. Special edition. Wrapped in brown paper, tied with string, no note inside. Just a title in bold gold lettering across the front. Dramatic, a memoir by Rachel Grace. Their silence after that was the loudest it had ever been. For 3 weeks, not a single message. Not from Mom. Not from Ben. Not even from Aunt. We've all been through things. I half expected a cease and desist. Or maybe a group lawsuit claiming defamation of character. But you know what I got instead? A 5-star review on Goodreads. From a user named JG, my father's initials. The review read, "She told the truth. And it hurt. But not as much as pretending it didn't." I stared at the screen for a long time. He didn't email me. Didn't call. But for a man who rarely said anything, those 10 words felt like a scream. And still, I didn't reach out. Because this wasn't about reconciliation. This was about validation. About building a life without their permission. The book picked up traction. A few social media therapists shared quotes. I started getting messages from strangers. People I'd never met were telling me their own stories. How they had cried reading mine. How they'd sent their own therapy bills. How they'd finally walked away. I wasn't dramatic anymore. I was a movement. And the cherry on top. 1 year later, I got invited to speak at a mental health conference. Topic: Emotional labor and the cost of silence in families. I walked on that stage in a sleek black dress, heels that clicked like punctuation, and a voice that didn't shake. At the end of my talk, I said one final thing. If they call you dramatic for telling the truth, speak louder. Make it cost them something. And if you ever feel guilty for leaving, remember, peace is not selfish. It's expensive. And you're allowed to send the bill. The applause was thunderous. But the part that really got me? After the event, a young woman came up to me in tears. She held out her copy of my book, trembling. My mom said I was too dramatic too, she whispered. But I sent her my therapy bill last night. I didn't think I could do it until I read your story. I signed her book. Hugged her. And in that moment, I understood something deep in my bones. Being dramatic saved my life. Being dramatic gave others permission to save theirs. So go ahead. Call me the dramatic one. Just don't be surprised when I send you the invoice.